Shoot me! I can't hold on to it much longer! Ah!
What's up, Goth Gamer Nation and Goth Hunters, and welcome to another season of Darkened streams, wherein I review every one of the 327 episodes of Supernatural, or however many YouTube allows before shutting me down. Season 2, new season, new intro, baby. We got a little pentagram, it's pretty cool. Supernatural Season 2 premiered on September 28th, 2006 on their new home, the CW, which was still trying and failing to get smelly boys to watch the show, but their teen girl audience was holding fast. Season 2 is an interesting season that presents a noticeable vibe change for many reasons. Series creator Eric Kripke, and indeed the show's critics, had become aware that the first season quickly fell into a comfortable Monster of the Week format, where Sam and Dean Winchester drive into a town, find a suspicious obituary, hunt a monster, maybe be a pretty lady, maybe to kiss her, and then shoot the monster. Because of this, there are several ideas thrown at the wall for Supernatural's new direction, some of which stick and many of which mercifully end with a hard reset at the season's end. There is this clear friction between creator and writer, where they introduce what seem like long-term plot points that are stomped on an episode later. While Season 1 was mostly composed of Monster of the Week episodes, Season 2 would be half lore episodes and half their reworked, self-contained episodes that pit the brothers against monsters in more dynamic and unconventional situations, often with some secondary theme being explored, like dealing with loss or fearing your own destiny. This season would not have nearly as much viewership as the last, perhaps because of the network and time slot change, or just because many had lost interest. It was quite literally in jeopardy of cancellation for this period, and only received a third season on the gamble that they could turn things around. But reviews were still good, and it was still clear that people were showing up because these two stinky farty boys were fun to watch.
I can't do it! It stinks in here!
Season 2, Episode 1, entitled In My Time of Dying, sees the return of Eric Kripke as writer and X-Files alum Kim Manners as director, which is good. If you're just joining and you missed last season, think of Supernatural's links to X-Files as your lifeline, the IV drip keeping the show interesting. One of my favorite things about Season 2 is the previously on recaps. You know how last season I mentioned that almost every episode starts out with, "Take your brother outside and run, now Dean." That's because so much of that season is Monster of the Week, so they essentially had to remind you of the show's basic premise every episode. Sam and Dean's mother was killed by a demon when they were young, and their father turned into an unhinged, survivalist-type hunter that trained his kids to fight the supernatural creatures and forces that operate in secret all over the world, but mostly in the USA. The editors assume you got that by now. So what do they need to remind you of at the start of most episodes this season? The fact that they failed to kill the demon after it possessed their father. By the way, later in the series, this is a plot point that would have stretched across half a season, but they mercifully end it within this scene. Anyway, they remind you of last season's finale with a truncated version of their final standoff that never fucking fails to make me laugh.
Shoot me! I can't hold on to it much longer! Ah!
Sam, you gotta shoot me right now. I'm not gonna. I can't do it, Dad. Sammy, I'm begging you. You gotta. Oh my God, I can't breathe. No cold open, straight into the plot, picking up moments after the last season's finale. The truck-driving demon threatens to finish the Winchesters off, but Sam manages to scare it out of its host with the Colt. Sam, Dean, and John are airlifted to a hospital, which, I don't know about Sam, but I would have turned that down. Can't imagine what the bill's gonna look like. Good thing that they probably have fake health insurance as well as fake credit cards. Dean is the first up, and he stumbles around a very familiar hospital set, even going down the same staircase this time at a Dutch angle. So rest assured, The supernatural crew is spending their money wisely, saving their budget for cool contact lenses and whatnot. Dean tries to talk to the receptionist, but she doesn't seem to acknowledge him. Nobody does. Walking back to his room, he realizes he is still comatose in a hospital bed with all manner of tubes and wires going through him. Sam enters and talks with the doctor about Dean's condition. Our boy's pretty fucked up. Aside from the massive blood loss from the demon squishing him like a ketchup bottle, the car accident may have swirled around the hardened banana that made up his brain. Any normal person without plot armor would be dead by now. Sam and John butt heads because John seems more concerned about getting the cult back instead of finding some back alley wizardry to revive Dean. But Sam relents and goes to meet up with Bobby so they can tow the Impala back to his place. John also gives Sam a list of magic ingredients he wants from Bobby for protection. This comes across as odd. Also, when Sam asks what the demon had meant when he said he had plans for Sam, John gives him an LA Noire-worthy, Ghost Dean was snooping on this whole conversation and becomes suspicious of his father's motives. At the junkyard, Bobby tries talking Sam into just scrapping the remains of the Impala, as there isn't really anything salvageable after the wreck. But Sam insists that Dean will want to repair it no matter how much of a lost cause it is. I think they're like trying to say something about his character or some shit, but I don't know because I'm just an idiot. Oh, thank Christ they found an excuse to get rid of Sam's gamer laptop. You were due for an upgrade, buddy. Maybe something with a cooler, strategically placed, non-copyrighted sticker.
What John want with this?
Protection from the demon? What?
Nothing. It's
Ghost Dean becomes frustrated that nobody seems to be racing to find some means of saving him. When he begins to see a ghostly figure darting around the hallways, it eventually floats into a random nurse, killing her. Sam manages to put together what John needed those supplies for, summoning a demon, not warding one off. This is one of many moments that give me a moment of pause in my suspension of disbelief, or just cause me to put a magnifying glass up to the show, because so John could always just summon the demon if he wanted? They went on this wacky road trip to find him when they could have summoned him and immediately emptied the cult into him? Just seems a little weird that this never came up in the year they've been looking for it. Ghost Dean, desperate to stop his family from arguing, manages to swipe a glass of water off a table, which leads to one of my favorite lines in the whole series.
Dude, I full on Swayze that mother.
Coma Dean starts to take a turn for the worse when the ghostly figure appears to try to kill him, but Ghost Dean manages to scare it off, and in the process, Sam starts to think that Dean might be around in some astral form. Another apparent ghost starts wandering around named Tessa, and they both work to figure out what they're experiencing. In one of the cuter moments this season, Sam returns to the hospital with a talking board and has a conversation with Ghost Dean, who says he's hunting a Reaper.
There's no way to stop it.
Yeah, you can't kill death.
Well, it's just the cutest shit in the world that Dean is dead and they still find a way to hunt some kind of ghoulie together. I miss you, Dean. There's a Reaper after me. I'm gonna bury you next to Mom, Dean. Their father's journal makes mention of the fact that Reapers can alter human perception, appearing as whatever they think those who have died would be more willing to trust. The Reaper in the episode Faith, I guess, figured people would be more willing to go with him if you look like a decaying corpse in a suit, but this time around, they chose to appear as a pretty lady, because every time she showed up as a horrifying phantom, Dean freaks out and tries to stop her. I think this episode overall is fine. It's one of those episodes that is important because of what it adds to the world, and the last 5 minutes of it set the tone for the rest of the season. But it does kick off one of the best performances I feel in the whole series. While Dean and the Reaper talk about death and get sad and stuff, John had slinked off into the hospital's basement to summon the demon. The demon, who doesn't actually get a name until season 3, jumps around to a few different hosts, but this hospital janitor, played by Frederick Lenny, is by far my favorite.
I could always shoot you.
You could always miss. And you only got one try, don't you?
He's a character actor that shows up all over TV and in a few of my favorite shows, like X-Files and Lost, and always seems to outclass whoever he's sharing a scene with. There's something about him, a particular sadistic glee makes me light up whenever he's on screen. Audience reaction was pretty good as well, which is why he didn't wind up being a one-off. But I'm guessing not a lot of people questioned why this janitor guy turned out to be a host that the demon favored. While John attempts to bargain with the demon, the cult, and his life in exchange for Dean's, Dean tries to bargain his way out of being taken by Tessa, but she explains that if he doesn't go with her, he'd stay there forever, angry, unwilling to let go, until it drives him insane and he becomes one of the angry spirits he's spent his life hunting, which I've always thought was a clever and considerate way of teaching us about something that we've already seen a few times in the show but never examined the mechanics of. As Dean is crossing stage 4 to stage 5 of Dabda, the demon possesses Tessa and revives him. This scene, by the way, was comically difficult to film because Lindsay McKeon here couldn't see where Jensen was on account of the colored eye contacts. Something Lenny had to deal with as well, which is why he doesn't do much moving around, and when he does, off camera there are sandbags so he can remember where his mark is. Dean wakes up with no memory of his time as a ghost, but the impression that something wrong happened. John checks up on both of them, asking Sam for a coffee, presumably so he'd be out of the room while he uses his final moments alive to apologize to Dean and attempt to be a real father for a second. Sam, I got like 5 minutes to live. Could you give us some space? Thanks, that'd be great. A couple coffees wouldn't hurt none either. To Dean's complete confusion, John also insists that he look after Sam, whispering something to him that we don't hear but seems shocking. Moments later, Sam returns to find their father gone already. This feels like a very intentional episode to spell out how the show is gonna go through some changes. This ain't your daddy's Supernatural because Dad's dead now. Unfortunately, aside from the filming location, this doctor, not a lot of X-Files connection so far. Weirdly, a lot of the extras in this episode return with bigger roles later in the series, like the actor credited as Dying Nurse comes back as a zombie in season 5. In some ways, I feel like this should have been the finale episode for season 1, since it actually brings the main objective of that season to a close. They spent most of it trying to find their dad. They found him, he died, and thus his quest was passed on to them, and they're ready for it now as their bond as brothers has been amended after it was frayed for so long. The longer-term villain is given a face, Sam's purpose is hinted at, so there is plenty to act as cliffhanger. It would also be less jarring when the Impala is miraculously repaired from being a pretzel like 2 episodes from now.
I think I'll pass on the 72 virgins, thanks. I'm not that into prude chicks anyway.
It's out of my control. It's just fate.
That's crap.
So what's it going to be?
Dude, I full on Swayze that mother.